and it let out this blood-curdling, guttural scream.
On the side of the road, he sees a deer carcass and something eating on it, which he thought was a bear. And as the lights hit it, it stood up. And, like, this gives me chills talking about it. He said it stood up and it had the face of a man.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Bigfoots of America podcast show. I'm your host, Bryan Sawyer, coming at you. This is episode 26. Now, our guest today, on a personal level, I got to say, thank you, James Lady, for your patience. When I first started this show, I think I've mentioned this before, we thought the podcast show was going to start first and then the TV pilot series, but we got that in reversed. Well, James Lady is actually one of the first people that I talked to here in Michigan about Sasquatch and just all the encounters and then his investigations. What's so cool about our guest today, James Lady, is he digs deep into it. He's the first guy who made me realize that, hey, listen, Bigfoot isn't just out in the deep woods. They are closer to our cities and towns than we ever realized. So I just want to say thank you once again, James Lady, for your patience, for hanging in there, and still accepting my invitation to be on this show. So with this said, we're going to bring the man himself, James Lady, into the show. Hey, James, you there?
Hey, Bryan. Yes, sir. Quite an introduction. Thank you.
Well, you are, man. I think your patience, a lot of people get upset. And why do people get upset? It's because we don't do exactly what they want us to do. And, as I struggled to get the show going, had a producer fall out, all that kind of stuff, we had to kind of solidify the direction we were going. And then you hear the rumors about all the infighting of the Bigfoot community. I knew I wanted to handle everything just right. And the part of the way I do things is to say, hey, we have this evidence here, and not only do we have this evidence, but it belongs to James Lady. It's not our evidence. We want to spotlight the light onto James Lady. So, just thanks so much for hanging in there. I think you, like I said, you are the last guy and the longest guy that I've waited to get on the show with. So much appreciated. But with all that said,
all good things in their own time, and it really hasn't been a burden at all. It all, like I said, let it wash over you, and all good things in their own time. So
yeah,
thanks.
and you know what? And now that you say that, I might not have been ready. We're both Christian brothers, and I might not have been ready to interview you yet because I probably didn't have the depth. It's been a joy to get to know guys like Val Savala and just even like the people who didn't believe that Bigfoot existed, and then to meet with them face to face and even see how so many years later, I love using Aaron Young as an example. He hadn't been back to his sighting location in, oh my gosh, 20, 30 years? And he was still kind of freaking out that if there was one around, So, yeah, but
Yeah,
James, let's get to you. You have the Michigan Aboriginal Project, okay?
yeah, that
Right
really
here
should
from
be the.
Michigan.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Well, why don't you
I
tell us what it's all about?
Once upon a time, I thought it'd be a cool thing to have a YouTube channel. After kind of going down the rabbit hole, I was planning a trip up to the Boundary Waters up in Minnesota. Did that, and after 2.5, 3 days, I clicked on a link that I had resisted the whole time. And it was really the first time I used YouTube as a research utility, and began to enjoy it because I found everything about our trip, our campsite, the portages we would take, and the lakes we would traverse. It's just a beautiful area, and had a lot of fun doing it. Finally clicked on that Bigfoot video, and then I went down the rabbit hole because as a kid I thought You know, well, if they were real, I would want to see one. I'm just curious that way.
I
And I love
agree.
adventure. I grew up on, Tarzan initially, then Daniel Boone, Davy Crockett, and later on Clint Eastwood and Fox Mulder and the X Files, and lived somewhat vicariously through them and through their celluloid presence. And I just thought that don't forget about Planet of the Apes,
Oh
and I
yeah,
never dreamt that I would grow up in a reality that is practically a real life Planet of the Apes kind of thing.
for sure.
Because they speak, they're quite different from us, but then they're quite the same in many ways. I used to think that there were some reclusive dumb ape, maybe along the Gigantopithecus line, but the more I learned through time and my own experiences and reflecting on past experiences, they are so much more than just what one might, your common Joe Sixpack might think they are. They are, in my estimation, at this time, I believe they are the living, breathing, um, perhaps watchers of the Old Testament, of the apocryphal text, First Enoch. You're very familiar with those. So my
Oh
current thinking,
yes.
given all that I've listened to, all the amazing vocal practices, vocal modalities, um, uh, uh, speech modalities, the way they resonate and enunciate at the same time. These are things that I've observed, and they don't. These abilities don't belong to some reclusive ape. There's just no way. Right now, it makes the most sense to me. Occam's razor is that we were told about these beings a long time ago
Mm.
uh, in First Enoch, and there are references to First Enoch in the New Testament. Jesus, referred back to. There are some references that Jesus made to First Enoch. Um, so I don't know. It's a big puzzle, and it's right here in our own beautiful Great Lakes state. Wherever there's water, I've found wherever there's streams, even storm drainages, below cities like Mount Clemens. I've
Wow.
reasoned that there might be a presence there at times in their storm drains.
Well,
Um,
yeah. So I've got them in New Haven. So I've tracked
oh
them
yeah,
some to, which is not far from there.
no, not at all. I have found structural artifacts, the things that I look for in Troy.
Ah.
Southfield. I've recorded audio in Southfield, and the audio footage contains the verifying vocal elements that I look for to establish possibilities within audio. Then you make a clip of that. Then I explore it later on. So they speak and they speak a lot, but and it's understandable to me why not a lot of other people are actually doing this, or at least with any success, is that the subtle resonant clues that are in the footage that lead me to go down to encourage me to clean up that audio. That's where I'm getting some of this really kind of weird stuff, and I haven't really published all of the weird stuff I have. I have some stuff that I don't know what to do with.
Wow.
um, yeah, it's pretty amazing, and it's awesome. I mean, it's awesome. You mentioned a low voice earlier. I have voices lower than you could ever expect. Remind me, send me a note, and I'll send you a clip where you hear an enunciated and multi-vocal sound, and especially with vocal sound. It has tone, texture, and timbre, and those all mean little different things, but um, helps describe the great complexity of the audio that's present. Now, I'm very targeted, and where I collect audio, I'm not going out blindly and just hoping to capture something in an area that feels squatchy. I don't do that. I actually look for.
I'm with you, brother. I'm with you.
Yeah, you got to be targeted. I'm certain you've seen these structural artifacts. We're talking actual teepees, wigwams, and lean-tos,
Oh yeah.
and I don't know what they mean in their culture, but I think I'm pretty sure they're significant in their culture.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Um, I did want to ask you
Excuse me.
one quick question because you are the guy who turned my light on about them being so close to cities and towns. What's the most populated area, and then I'll let you continue because that you've gotten evidence from.
The most populated area, probably Southfield.
Okay. Oh my
Southfield.
goodness.
And it's the second largest concentration of structural artifacts. We're talking a lot of lean-tos, teepees, things of that nature. That I mean, we're talking in the south. It's Southfield suburb, but it's on the corner of Greenfield and Evergreen.
Oh, I know the.
Losser. Wait a minute. 9 Mile and Evergreen. That's where it is. It's Bowervik Woods Park. And you go in there and you'll find structural art. You will also find some what I'd call bastardized structure, things that people have put in there. And last time I did a recording experiment, I got 0 recordings from that area that had a structure or like a bench made by people, clearly made by people. They were sunken in and set, and it wasn't our hairy cousins. But
So do you think that Harry Cousins? You think the Harry Cousins started it, and then what's the word I'm looking for? The humans kind of dirtied it up, and so the Sasquatch
yeah,
weren't interested in it anymore.
maybe they consider it defiled. That's all
Yes.
speculation. I have no idea. But I know that I didn't get any recordings there after that stuff had been present. So
Wow.
it's speculation, but it makes sense to me.
Awesome.
Makes sense.
Awesome.
We're all looking for answers, and there's so much to be confused by out there. I shake my head all day long. I mean, this is the one subject I perpetually obsess on, much to my wife's chagrin. We're still happily married, thank God.
Yeah,
But
it takes the
she
right
almost
woman, huh?
left me. She almost left me when I was into it and realizing that this is a real thing. I was blown away. And that was I was that was my sole focus, and that's all I wanted to talk about. It was embarrassing. I get it. Um, I understand
Yeah.
family and friends and loved ones' response to that, but come on, people. There's a race of giants, many of whom could have spiritual qualities and elements and ties to the big guy, right?
Oh yeah, and
Uh,
implications to the end days. That's what's really
right.
scary.
Yeah, and again, I can't say that's not happening. It makes sense. The world's gone
Yeah.
upside down, you know. Just madness. My wife is just getting home, so if there's a little background noise, you'll know why.
No problem. I think
Hey,
I
sweetheart.
think we need to sound the alarm. We need to go, hey, look, we don't know for sure, but this is a possibility. So it's like I tell my boys, my oldest doesn't believe they exist, but
Wow.
um but he's kind enough, like I always say, he laughs at me and he says, "Hey, you're getting older, Dad, and you're just looking for something to do in your retirement." And I'm like,
That's okay.
"Son, you're right, right." And hopefully I am wrong, son, but if this has to do with Isaiah 13:3, gee, where's all my other notes? Luke 21:11, if these are the phobotron, if when Jesus said, in the last days there'll be fearful sights and things coming down from the heavens, he actually
Mhm.
meant there'll be monsters and UFOs. It's like, okay, guys, here's some more evidence that the end days are upon us.
Yeah, 100%. I cannot argue otherwise. And we've seen the devil at work. I'm convinced there's significant spiritual warfare going out there, and these beings might have a role in that spiritual warfare.
Yeah,
If you're looking at
yeah.
the text alone, it would suggest that would be true. So I think I think we're not told about these by our educators and our protectors, right, in our government. Um, Perhaps it's not their role, but by acknowledging them would also mean to acknowledge the narratives of the Old Testament. Um,
Mm,
and why don't we know about that? That little book of life
yeah.
is meant to help us, right?
Oh, for
And
sure. Why was
knowledge.
Enoch taken out, so to speak, or not included?
Well, didn't Enoch disappear? He walked with God and just he didn't. He never really died. He just
That
ascended.
that's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And like Jesus, I mean, the same kind of story.
Yeah.
Um,
So what
Yeah,
was
and
your
it's
you said
amazing.
you had a
And
sighting?
someone, I'm formerly atheist, right? So it's for me to intellectually digest it.
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah. I rationalized God out of my life. I read a lot of Ayn Rand and Nietzsche, and these popular atheists. And although I subscribe a lot to their philosophies, and well, their philosophy is basically objectivism, and the power of the individual that Nietzsche promotes, his own Superman. I where did I go with that? Pardon me, because I'm a bit ADD.
No,
You might
that's
have
okay.
to bring me back, but this stuff is
No, it's good stuff.
convinced every day that it is absolutely biblical. Yeah,
What did you
I
get
started
a
going from.
narrative?
Pardon?
Did you get a narrative of an atheist point of view on what Sasquatch could be, or do
Well,
atheists not
when I
believe in
was
Bigfoot?
myself fashioned atheist, I really never gave it a lot of thought. That
Okay.
was in my late teens, young mid 20s, up to into the 30s. Then I began to experience a bit of life and gain a little new perspective. I mentioned earlier I walked that dark valley. I was an empty shell of a man at one point, after
Gotcha.
a suboptimal marriage, and all the pain that goes with that. But God was there for me through my art journey. It was the first time I realized that when you hold a brook trout in your hands, you have to believe there's a God. And then when you hold your
Huh.
first child in your hand, just right after the birth, you have to believe there's a God. I mean, this recreation of we creations is a really beautiful thing, and we're encouraged to multiply them. And
Yeah, it's too complex. In my book, well, of course, I was taught by my grandfather was a Baptist minister, and then tutelage underneath my father. So I always believed, but then, yeah, I went through the years where God was like, "All right, it's me and you, buddy. You're not living through your dad and your grandfather anymore." And how did that happen? That was a wake up call at a McDonald's on the way to Cedar Point, where an angel, what I call to this day an angel, basically slapped me in the face and said, "Hey, you're not living right. You can't live through your dad and your grandfather anymore. And I'm here to tell you, you're on the wrong path and you need to get back on the right
yeah,
path." And as
it,
he laid into me, he said something that originally caught my attention. A packed McDonald's comes up to me and says one thing. He calls me out on the secret that I had growing up. And the secret was my middle name. I didn't like my middle name. It's a
okay,
girl's name. It's Lynn.
okay,
This individual, I don't even want to call him a man, walks up to me in a busy McDonald's and he says, "Your middle name is Lynn." And I knew exactly who he was. Well, not necessarily, kind of lay into me gently but firmly. And then after he got done with that, I watched him walk to the middle of the McDonald's, look around at all the crowd as if he was an admiring father over his children. James, I'm not telling you, I barely looked away and looked back, and that person was gone.
angels aren't
Gone. He had
Yeah,
these light Oh yeah, he had these light blue eyes, and then after that, I had to deal with the devil in the living room of my house, and
wow.
then all the ghost and demon encounters, and then about my fairy story. So let's talk about. Well, first of all, did you have an actual Bigfoot sighting? So you had
Oh
collect
yeah,
all the audio that you can gather. What
I've
was it?
had.
Because I don't know. I was trying
Well,
to
I'll tell you
summon
my
it up and
last
look at my
one.
notes.
I can tell you the first one and the last one. First ones were
Yeah.
sightings that I really didn't know what they were because I was not giving this subject much attention. I was back when I was hunting up in Alpena, so I've seen uh, two up there and had two other experiences. At one house slap on the side of the cabin, and one something walking up to my door, sniffing, and then taking like two steps and then silence. It was weird, and I remember during that time I couldn't move. I don't know if it was fear or if it was doing whatever they do to us when we're absolutely petrified.
But
You want to
yeah.
move, you want to move, but I was afraid I was going to turn around and see a bear or something. So write that off to fear. But from that same blind, another
Hmm.
time I saw one down the shooting lane. There were these two eyes and a head, rounded, no ears, no antlers, nothing like that. just like a bump over a log across the shooting lane, which was a power kind of a private power strip, and just looking at me, and I'm looking at it, don't know what it is. And after a while, I looked away and then looked back, and it was gone. It was just that simple. I'd seen one a human figure walk across or run across a path. It's just the last moments of it, like getting off the path and into the brush that aligns it. That was a weird one because it was slender, very fast, very slender, and it had a green, like a brown green hue to it. And for that reason, I kind of wrote it off as someone from the DNR or something like that, which is, it wouldn't be the case. Looking back, I'm certain it was likely one of these beings. And then so many years passed, and I really didn't give a rip. I didn't give it much thought. Always in the back of my mind, I thought if they were real, I'd want to see one. That's all. And I've seen plenty. So after I went down the rabbit hole in March 2016, the following September, mid-September, I took a trip. It was the first time I actually delved into the woods and started looking around for things that would suggest their presence. My second trip was in October, and it was then that I actually had a stare-down encounter with one. It's about 9:45. It was October 30th, 2016, and it was just a stare-down. I was going to the side of the camp to spit my toothpaste out, and I had a red headlamp on, and I look up, and there are these two, what turned out to be eyes. It took a few minutes of assessment. I just, based on its behavior, I was convinced I was staring down one of these beings. Really wide set eyes, huge, wide set, and never moved a freaking millimeter the whole time we stared down. And that had, it was at least 5 minutes. I'd have to say it was longer. It seemed longer than the time I actually was filming after I broke the impasse and I grabbed my camera and flashlight. As nonchalantly as possible, I turned around, I went back there and tried to get him. And within the first like 20 seconds of that footage, there's 6-second footage on my homepage of MichiganAboriginal.com that you can see a subject in the background that was captured on film. Not the best quality film, but you can see enough light and movement to distinguish the ocular recess, the auricular recess, the shape of the body all the way down to the feet. It's a full-length shot, although the feet, the lower extremity is not as well illuminated. And I didn't know that for 4 months. 4 months later, I had reviewed that footage, and I caught the anomaly and explored it and blew it up, and you can see the scrub analysis of that. So I recently caught one. I didn't see one this recent trip. I had 2 trips this spring. One in, is it May? 3rd week of May, with the small town monster folks out west, and then Western Michigan. And the trip early May, which is my annual trip. I've been going up to this valley forever. And we'll always go back despite the frights. The last one I saw there was October. What was the name? I'm getting soft. My brain's getting soft. October 24th. It was a Monday. It was raining. Fine. It was in the morning, and it had to come back to me. I want to be accurate, and I need to repeat these because I'm getting older. I need to commit a more to memory. But I'll never forget those times. I heard this gurgly, gravelly, hissing sound that awakened me at 6 a.m. You can hear that on my YouTube channel, and that's called a very rude awakening. No, I thought it was a hiss. At first, there are cougar in that valley, and I thought it was perhaps a cougar.
Oh.
But cougars are predators, and predators usually don't let their presence before they attack. So going by that, and I rolled off the mat and I saw
right.
He was less than 4 feet tall. You could see the general shape of this little humanoid. It could have been a little people. I don't know if they're any different from little Sasquatches. I have no idea. But the Sasquatch tend to leave you alone, but they can be pranksters. In my discussions with Igor Burtsev, he emphasizes they are pranksters. Shouldn't be afraid, and But they are pranksters, and that one scared the living daylights out of me. It was a seriously unpleasant thing to wake up to, and my nerves were quite shaken for hours after that. I later came home and did a little video of the audio. I was grateful that my recorder was still going at 6 a.m. Usually they peter out in camp around 4 or 5 a.m., but this was still going.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it suffered a drowning too. That recorder suffered a drowning. I dried it out, and it didn't affect the recording. Thank goodness, because I have that. Yeah, that would be the.
Wow, what kind of recorder?
It's just a little handheld. Well, I have four, but one cheap Olympus and two other good, decent ones. I think it's the DM720. It's just a little handheld, unit that I put in a sleeve or a little plastic envelope and leave in the woods under some leaves or bark or whatever.
Nice.
But I leave them on VCVA mode because going through all that footage is a real burden, and it stresses relationships. So I try to keep that to Monday evenings when my wife works late. Or other times. I'm better at balancing the madness, because it is a lot. There is a lot of madness. You're trying to. The thing is, it's all new, and this subtle speech that they employ. I mean, I wouldn't even think this. See, I had all the other audio recording, other encounter recording, and there are two versions of 10 minutes that I published, and those 10 minutes are those minutes surrounding, 5 minutes before, 5 minutes after this center point when I heard this Ochichi Chuha from the river, and then some other madness that my memories ear didn't really match what you're hearing on the audio after you do the audio review, but that wasn't going to be for a month later. But I heard some other madness, then a big boom, and I could feel the percussive impact of that boom. I later recorded that in early 2020, in August 2020, up in the UP, same sort of boom. And it sounds like there's a kind of a greeting of two of these big boys going on. You can hear that in the Hanzo recording. That's scary. And I'm not altogether convinced those are actually Bigfoot. I think it's along the 6+ year road that I've been on, recording here and there. I may have picked up some other cryptids and likely the whole dog man. That's, again, speculation. I don't know, but there are certain qualities and moods of conversation that are distinctive. Like those in the UP, those were angry and they sounded really big and forceful. The valley I usually record in, the nature of these beings are very quiet. They're really, and when they are loud, it can be rather beautiful. You can hear these siren sounds and a classic call or classic kind of a whoop, and it's answered by another call, then the siren sound and some other stuff, and then there's conventional speech in that. That's it. What I'm talking about right now is in a recording called the Michigan Valley Voices. Something I chose to call it because it was so unique in the history of my audio captures. And it's a bunch of them. It's multiple subjects. You have subjects both in the foreground and the background, and they're all communicating in a really civil, kind of beautiful kind of way. It's just unimaginable.
When there's angry, is it maybe two alphas?
Sounded like multiple subjects, and that big boastful boys. Yeah, it could very well be. I don't know. I'm glad I wasn't there because the audio was terrifying in the Hanzo file.
Oof.
Yeah.
What are your so let's dig a little bit. Let's dig a little bit deep for a second. This is all basic Bigfoot 101 stuff, but for me, it's so important to establish a community that these things live in. First of all, let's talk about population numbers. I know no one knows, but what I'm learning is I'm not saying somebody told these lies point blank, but it seems to me there's two lies that have been propagated, so to speak. One is that they don't exist, and then that fades away like, oh, well, maybe they do exist, but it's one dude that lives out west. You know,
Right.
it's that Patterson Gimlin one, and they're only
Yeah.
out west. Well, my friend, you being in Michigan and now me coming, yeah, if you've been involved in it that long and then everything I've been learning the last 2, 3 years, what do you think? I think there's way more of these things than we ever imagined possible. What are your thoughts on that? And then what are your thoughts on the different types? You know, there's different types of these things.
Yeah, I agree. There are different types. I don't know a lot about that, but I'm convinced there are different types. Based on all the eyewitness testimony that you and I have heard, we know there are different types. Like people, right? We're all,
Yeah.
and there's even one more reason that they're people, right? They're all very different and unique. However, if they are of this weird unseen realm, they all have rules, right? That realm exists and is governed by God. Psalm 82 talks about his divine counsel. I think they are the utmost, divine counsel. You have to earn that, I guess, earn a place on the council. He did say in Psalm 82, he said,
Yeah.
all of you, however, you will die like mortals, or gods, all of you. If you look at the original Hebrew
Right.
translation, he meant gods, and these are demigods. I mean, if this narrative is true, this is what we're talking about, and it's, again, a big horse pill to swallow. And so I believe there are different kinds. I know the recordings I've gotten in around Detroit metro area and Ann Arbor are really quite different from those that I consistently get in northern Michigan, although I get some sprinklings of the other weird stuff in the northern Michigan. And I picked up, I wonder about regional dialectic differences, but we'll never know about all that because we
Wow.
don't. Well, I don't know for sure
Right.
exactly who's speaking or what the source of the audio is, but they're speaking. I presume for the most part they are these beings. I mean, 6 months before the little one woke me up at 6 a.m., I had two sightings in 2022. It was May 12th, I think. It was hotter than heck. It was like 92, 2 days in a row back in 2022 up north. And I woke up in the middle of the night and, trying not to pee, but thinking, maybe I better get up and I don't leave my tent anymore. I've got a little urinal in there that I use. But while I was contemplating go to the bathroom, I'm looking up this arborvitae that I really never knew was there. I must have forgot about it, but it's strangely in the shape of, one of our big hairy cousins, and it's backlit by a near full moon. It's just, it was so cool. And I'm thinking, no, couldn't be. I get up and I do my business and I get back in my sack and it's still there. It never moved a thing and had every opportunity to leave, right? If it were. So I convinced myself it was just an arborvitae or so. And I woke up in the morning, it wasn't there. Same lighting conditions the next night, it wasn't
Oh
there.
my.
Yeah. So, but in that can't, I mean,
I think
that was about 25, 30 feet from me, and that was like a good 9-footer. I honestly believe, Brian, that sometimes they're there to protect you. They never harm me. The little ones, I've been
see,
scared.
all right, very cool. Well, then let's dig into that point because so here's part of the reason I asked that question is recently I've seen the AI rendering of one of Randy Kutera's sketches,
Mm-hmm.
and it is scary. This thing looks like an orangutan combined with a demon, and that makes me think of where is it? Luke 21:26, where it says where men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming up upon the earth. So then I'm like, oh my gosh, that thing is so scary. Are they all bad or are some good? So speak on to that for a minute. You think there could be good ones who even protect us?
Yeah, I do. I honestly do that. I actually have a recording. It's not exactly protect him, but it sounds like protect him. And there were others present. You could hear
Okay.
they whisper. I'm telling you, here's my theory, and you can hear it. You can hear some interesting sounds in a recent republication. I had one that was a video that was a private. It's Stillwater Sasquatch. It's a recent publication or issue on the YouTube channel. In there, you'll hear some vocalizations that I captured during that encounter. It was that was the October 21st, 2019. There's another version of that that's a little extra modified, a little more filtered. Both offer something. You can learn from both, right? The less filtered one, you can hear things that are kind of washed out in the more filtered one, but the more filtered one also brings out some unique voices. Like the 3-minute, 30-second, you hear a really deep voice. We talked about deep voice earlier. This one says, Ebenopsy, ooh ha ha. It's super cool. I can listen to that over and over. It's like, how cool is that? And the thing is, they were talking all those 9-10 minutes. I only knew that the encounter right in the middle from the Achichichuha and some other madness. I got zapped. I felt that sensation on my eardrums. It was like a really raspy, very uncomfortable sensation. I never want to experience that again. I was thinking, if this doesn't stop, I'm going to die. And the thing is, I never saw a single one. And you listen to the end of that 10 minutes, you hear like a pixie voice, an angelic. Well, before the pixie voice, you hear an angelic voice. It sounds like, we do love him. And then it kind of pacifies this previous approaching cacophony to that statement, we do love him. And they kind of, actually hear a couple of okays after that. This all, to the listener, to the skeptic, this all could be auditory pareidolia. But you have to wonder, time and time again, I get English expressions in these audios. And during those 10 minutes, you'll have a gremlinish voice sound. One says, "Are you wreaking havoc?" in the same voice. Within a couple of minutes later, the same voice says, "Havoc, hate this man tomorrow," in this gremlinish voice. And it's like, what are we dealing with? And again, I never saw anything that night. No eye shine. I just heard it all in the audio, which I analyzed a month later after I thought I was over my initial shock. Well, I tell you, Brian, when I analyzed that audio and brought out what was there,
goodness,
I was messed up for a good 3-4 months after that. It was not a healthy, healthy time in my life.
How do you recover from something like that?
Well, unconventional.
Yeah, I don't know how you recover.
Well, you delve into it because it's a big mystery. Until you have answers, you're not going to rest, right? So my way of dealing with that was to just kind of get lost in the audio and try to learn as much about it as possible. This work is the work of the Michigan Aboriginal Project, and the focus really shouldn't be on me, although it's my creation and all that, my little adventure. I call it my evidence-based adventure, right? I didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
It's like one of these. It's like, okay, and I've also prayed on it throughout this. I pray to be an instrument of his will, to bring glory to his name. And if this is his unique way of doing this through me, then I'm all in, if it brings glory to his name. But along the end times vein of conversation, think about it. I think if we collectively as a people realize that this alone is, as amazing as it is, it's just more evidence that God is real. The narratives of the Old Testament are real. And these angels unaware are real, as you know earlier and had expressed earlier. It's like, this is real. So if we could collectively as a world come to God and live by the simple 10 commandments, and can you imagine the Shangri-La this would be? That it is the Shangri-La. It would be the Shangri-La that everybody wants.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, both the goats and the sheep.
Without a doubt. And I don't know how I stated this before, but I'll just state it the correct way this time. When I asked God point blank, what are these things? His response to me was multifaceted. It was, look up how many different types of insects there are. And I'm like, all right, I'm about to get taught something. And I walk him out my backyard. I'm an auto worker. I'd go work in a plant with steel and concrete with no windows. I've been there for 31 years, and I haven't been outdoors much. And the only insects I know are the ants and the grasshoppers and the crickets and the occasional big praying mantis I catch climbing on the side of my house. Well, God knew when he said that that I would be awestruck when I look up the fact that, according to what I found, the references I found, there's anywhere between 900,000 and 3 million different types of insects.
Yeah,
So
all
then
that
my
too.
mind exploded, and yeah, okay, the hosts of heaven, all the different types of animals God created. So then, if the hosts of heaven, whether it be good or bad, and they have any kind of creating abilities, and then they're making things possibly like the seraphim are making serpent type dinosaurs after their own images, and then they're getting it on not only with earthly women, maybe all sorts of God's creations, and they're spawning all these different type of mystical creatures. My mind was blown. And
Yeah,
then of course the fairy sighting
yeah,
with those two things, the how many different types of insects there are, and the fairy sighting. I went, I better be careful what I say. I better be careful with having tunnel vision about what I think Bigfoot is or Sasquatch is or any of these other types of creatures. Tell me, you've got more knowledge than I do. What types of I'm learning as I go. What other types of creatures? You mentioned possibly Dogman, of course. We've talked about that before, but let's talk about it from your perspective. And then also even the little people. Go ahead.
well, to my knowledge, I'm not sure that I've ever had a direct encounter with them. We ran into 3 individuals up in the UP, my daughters and I, and one of their friends. And that was the first time I had ever seen red eye shine in the woods. I'd never, ever, and I'm a woodsman. I love the woods. I've been out there all my life. I used to run down the creek and catch little sirens and crawdads and all that. I love it all. I love. By the way, that same creek I used to play in as a boy does occasionally host some Sasquatch structures down in southern Ohio. I learned that about 4 years ago. I was like, no kidding, no
Awesome.
kidding. But I never saw them as a kid, in this place. So it does kind of support the discussion about their numbers and their ever increasing numbers. Um, I never answered the question on population. I don't know how many there are, but I know that in most watersheds,
Okay.
in all watersheds, I believe that they have some presence, and they probably move from one watershed to a next. I have no idea. Cliff
Yeah.
speculated that there might be 200 in Michigan. Jeff Meldrum feels that there might be 1 Sasquatch per 200 black bear. Quite honestly, I've seen a lot more Sasquatch outside my campsite than I ever have black bear. Even though you got the black bear posters up on the back
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the outhouse door, the warnings. I think there might be a lot of massaging the actual encounter experience there. In campsite I go to, 3
Gotcha.
times I've found abandoned structures. 1 camper and 2 tents, just abandoned. Things left behind, no people, just
Mm.
clearly quick exits there.
Scared off?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So populations, who knows? I know that I've recorded in one valley dozens probably of subjects present, both near and afar and far from there. And they're organized. And how long do they live? I think these beings may live into the hundreds of years. I don't know that, but
Agree.
for them to reach such stature, size, and have these abilities, I would have to say God doesn't keep them around for 75 years, or whatever the average lifespan is for. No, they have a special purpose, I believe, and I mean, I'll share some audio with you, Bryan, that you put on your headphones, you turn the volume up, and listen to it.
Let's do it.
One of my favorites is a 35-second clip, and I'll send it to you. You listen to it privately. A lot of my stuff is amplified marginally. I massage it. Like a photographic image. I can't sell the raw image. You have to develop it. You have to bring out some colors, improve the sharpness, whatever, enhance it so the image elicits an appropriate emotional response that hopefully leads to a sale, right? For for an artistic image.
Mhm.
I'm using the same sort of artistic approach, and I've probably taught myself a lot of bad habits. I'm not formally educated in photography or the arts or this audio stuff, but it is another art form in my estimation. So I
Sure.
massage it to a point where you're hearing things, and the 35-second clip I'll send you by way of messenger after the
Okay.
show, is you listen to it.
Fantastic.
You'll hear the texture, tone, and timbre, and you have a variety of vocal modalities employed in that 35 seconds, as well as conventional speech. So all of that is revealed in 35 seconds. But those 35 seconds, when you explore the dynamic between these very uh, sources of sound, whether it be the clicky stuff or the conventional speech, you'll hear a very low voice in there. That is, you can detect enunciation in it. It's like, who is that? And which one is that? Or is it even God Himself? Is this the divine council in action? Who knows? I have no freaking idea. Um, all I know is that the more people realize that this phenomenon is real and has direct, we've been told about it before in these sacred texts. That maybe we should watch our p's and q's and treat one another a little better than we do, right? Especially on a
Very
world
good.
scale. You
Very
want
good.
world peace? Um, Realize that there's a world order, and it's been there forever. It's not new. It's an old
Yeah.
established
Yeah, we're the
order.
new guys. We're the new
Yeah.
kids
Well,
on the
the
block.
very existence of these beings puts into serious question and doubt in my mind about the theory of evolution. I'm not sold on it anymore. I'm just not. We are so unique. And when did we lose the ability to? If we came of this primordial ooze, why can't we live without clothes on outside in all the climes of this earth? Our hairy cousins can. They are in all climes
Yeah.
of Earth. And I do think there's reasonably the Florida variety are different from the Alaska variety or different from the Northern Michigan variety. But there are nations, maybe 70 of these beings that could very well be of an angelic, demonic um, realm. Could be. I don't
You
know.
you mean the 70 from the Tower of Babel?
Yeah, after that,
Is that what
yeah,
you were referring to? The 70? Yeah, the breakup
2019.
where the Lord said, "This is my portion," and He divided it. Yeah. And then I
Yeah,
also read somewhere some of that interpretation could just be 70 is just a reference to many or multiple.
could be,
Yeah,
could
that's
be.
crazy. I just got this book. I wanted to show you this. The
Nice.
Michigan Dog Man. Yeah, so I'm going to read this. Gives a bunch of different encounters of Dog Man in Michigan.
Hmm.
I just came back from was it last week. No, I was just in Gladwin and Coleman, Michigan. We had a Bigfoot sighting there. Nora Scott, I believe. I want to make sure I get her name right. Nora, yeah, my brain. You have so much. But Nora Scott, sighting just out of Gladwin, April 18th, early April. But her episode, yeah, I'll start releasing episodes September. So yeah, another sighting there, and then of course the Monroe Monster one, the recent one.
Yeah,
Well, we
yeah,
had one sighting over by me in Croswell, and then
beautiful.
I was prior to that. What week and a half, 2 weeks ago. Gee, was it that long already? Time's flying. Keeping busy. I was with Susan Moore and
Yeah,
Linda Pomransky. Oh my gosh, their location, which we're keeping private. Oh my goodness. Susan said she saw a pterodactyl when she was little, and I get there and I'm like, no wonder this is prehistoric.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it is amazing to me. Yeah, so I had no doubt. And then we found what we thought. We weren't really sure, a couple of partial footprints, but there was this one particular bottleneck along this path where to me sold the whole thing. You know, a woven type of vines just woven together. It looked like they were put together. And so it looked like you go down this bottleneck, and a Sasquatch could be here and a Sasquatch could be just up a
You
little
never
bit
know.
further. So if deer were coming through, they could just reach out and grab them. I was
Yeah.
so impressed by that location. We're planning on November. November, doing a get together out there, an all nighter. I can't wait for
Fabulous.
that. So
Yeah, no doubt.
it, it's amazing how many eyewitnesses there are when you start diving deep into the subject. And then, the reference of the Bible, I don't know if you know. So let's talk the book of Enoch, but the book of giants out of the book of Enoch. And I got to find it again, so I'm careful with quoting anything. But I thought there was a verse or a phrase in there where it talked about some of these giants were petitioning God, that they didn't want judgment to come upon them. They were the offspring of the fallen angels and then Nephilim. And God replied to them, well, basically, you didn't have any choice in being created. So as long as you keep your noses clean, as my father would say, as long as you hold the line, keep on the straight and narrow, I'm not going to bring judgment on you. You had no choice in being born. So there was some resolution there. If I got to go back and read that again just to make sure. But so yeah, I mean, there could be these good creatures, there could be these bad creatures. That fairy, that face-to-face fairy, it was over my face. I was wide awake, laying on my bed, thinking about all the stuff I had to do around the house. I'd just taken over my father's house, who had passed away. It was old and decrepit, thinking about all the things I got to fix, laying on the bed, wide awake because my mind is racing. And I hear a voice say, I've heard about you. I open my eyes to find this fairy hovering about a foot over, about the size of my hand, about a foot over my face. And I always do this, but it's looking at me like this, James.
That is creepy.
Eh,
Not your
Oh,
face.
yeah.
The whole experience I'm talking about.
Oh, oh yeah,
That's
and it's
it does.
feminine. It's a female.
Yeah.
Okay, the voice is female. And I opened my eyes, and it was so intent looking at me. Well, first it says the weird thing, I've heard about you. So I believe that's time, space. They might know the future, or might know, because at that time I wasn't into this subject. I wasn't into doing the Bigfoot show. I wasn't into
Yeah.
really digging deep into this subject. So I've heard about you. I didn't know if it knew the future or what I would be doing. And then I opened my eyes, and it's still so intently looking at me, it doesn't realize I'm watching it back. And then I say, you know, I can see you, right? And this thing, James, goes and just whizzes across the room into that junction box, with a
Amazing.
pop and
Amazing.
sparks, even sparks. And my mouth is dropped. And like we've talked before, and I've told the story many times before, but I think I needed that story so I wouldn't have tunnel vision. I wouldn't be
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe as judgmental as I might have been. And then talking to people like you, who have, like, you've got the audio, you've got a deeper sense, that these things, I don't mind the word interdimensional, but it's almost like they can come into our realm, our reality, and then back out. Whether it's cloaking or
Mm.
whatever, there is that quality about them. And like you said, when they speak, it's an otherworldly or out-of-worldly volume and tone. The one I heard speak was lower than anything in volume and tone than I've ever heard before in my life. And like I always say, I didn't sit there and go, I wonder if that was a Sasquatch. It was like, oh, that was me going, oh my goodness. So we're digging deeper, James, and it's exciting. It is truly exciting.
It is, and a bit nerve wracking, because they seem ever present. The first time I considered that they may, I mean, I don't have any other until recently, and I didn't know it at the time. It's only upon audio review. I told you about that one. We were chatting with the Small Town Monsters group. We were some distance away, and there's a voice speaking practically right into that. I'll send. I won't. I'll send it to you. But it's right in the middle. You can hear us in the distance, and you hear this thing say tree flaw or some tree flaw, something like that, in a very unique voice. It's not out, and it's right there. So I'm like, oh, I was a little upset because once I found that anomaly, I was looking for the audio of me playing audio for Courtney, and I found that, and that's when I discovered this tree flaw voice. So real close to the recorder, but then I started exploring the audio, and I looked for the other vocal elements, and it seems that spirit, if you will, that's all I can call it at this point, because we weren't seeing anything. We were doing our thing and socializing, and they were interviewing us, and it seems like if this whole angelic invisible realm is real, which it seems to be, they were there, they were around.
Yeah, let me tell you a story.
Again,
This
it's
is your
unnerving.
my girlfriend. She had seen Sasquatch peeking out behind trees, and we went to a private location. We were invited by the landowners. It's season 2, episode 11, called "The Watchers Among the Trees." Yeah. When we got out there, I've had the mind speak before, so they came to my house, in my opinion, spoke to me, all that. I've told the story a million times. But my girlfriend, she had the mind speak at this private location. The grunt, and then it said something to her. And here's my interesting, possible biblical connection. She believes she heard a Sasquatch speak. It grunted at first, and then it spoke, "I can heal you." Now, with that said, my girlfriend's gone through, breast cancer, torso reconstruction, very, very serious. She is, love her to death, such a sweetheart. Oh my goodness. So much courage to get through all of that. But she believes that's what the Sasquatch said to her. And then out of my studies, I don't know if it was Gary Wayne. You sound like you're a student of Michael Heiser as well.
Yes, I love Michael Heiser's work. Wonderful. I got the Unseen Realm
Yeah,
real close to me here.
fantastic. Yeah, I love Michael Heiser. I've been getting into Gary Wayne lately. And that biblical narrative that could connect with this Sasquatch saying, or a giant saying to my girlfriend, "I can heal you." If I'm correct, Gary Wayne kind of connected it to the Rephaim. So you've got the Nephilim and their offspring before the flood, but then after the flood, Gary kind of likes to classify them as the Anakim or the Rephaim. Well, the Rephaim of the lineage of Goliath, of David and Goliath, and part of the reason David cut off Goliath's head and separated is that these giants, these Rephaim, had self-healing powers or healing powers. So yeah, I just kind of recently stumbled onto what Gary Wayne was saying about all that, and then that made sense as to why this being or creature said to my girlfriend, "I can heal you." So very, very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Now, I've heard
Yeah,
stories.
there's no answer.
I can't deny anybody's witness testimony. This is all so very weird and very new. But if you adopt a supernatural worldview, that which the scribes of the Old Testament had, it begins to make a lot of sense. And you can argue that, well, that's the only way you can make sense of it, to believe some fairy tales. It's not. No, it's not at all. These beings come and go. Davy Crockett wrote about it to his brother-in-law. He had an experience of one of these beings appearing before him, saying, "Don't continue with this campaign or else," or something like that, and then disappeared as if the frog off a frog pond in the morning.
I got to read up on that one. I knew there was an encounter, but I didn't know it had said something.
Yes. Yeah, he told his brother-in-law Abner, he called him Abe, what went down. And of course, Davy Crockett sort of brushes it off as having some spoiled meat or something like that. I don't think so, because we hear time and again similar reports. They're not so prophetic. I mean, look at I think it's First Kings 8, maybe it's Second Kings 8, verse 1, or no, it's First or Second Kings 1, verse 8. It brings in literal. If you're looking at the New American Standard, I think one of the more literal translations, they describe a hairy man, and other translations speculate that he was wearing a camel coat or whatever. No. The original text says hairy man. Could it be one of these beings?
Sure.
With a particular purpose and role in their creation.
Without a doubt.
Fun to think
Without a
about. I
doubt.
challenge my conventional thinking Bible study brothers to the nth degree on this stuff, because it's
Awesome.
There is a supernatural world, and we're living in it. Deny it all you want, but
That's right. Yeah. Well, in the point blank, the Bible says, "Study to show yourself approved." If you care, you are going to study. If your heart is bent towards the Lord, you are going to investigate deeper than just well, first of all, the gospel is all we need. What Jesus did on the cross is all we need. But as you mature, you do want to go down these rabbit trails. You want to learn more. You don't want, like for me, it's very simple for me. I don't want my boys to be surprised by anything.
Good.
If aliens show up, they might be giggling, say, right. We're not to fear anything, but they might giggle if aliens show up and say, "Yeah, Dad mentioned this might happen. I guess he was right."
Well, if they ever admit you're right, you kind of want that day to come, don't you?
Exactly. Well, James, we hit an hour. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
Gosh, there's a ton of stuff I'd like to talk about. So let's get I'm inviting myself back. All right, we're not going to wait this long next time. So I'd love to come back.
You're a guy I'd love. Yeah, for sure. I'm sorry to cut you off. You're a guy I want to meet in person.
Yeah, we'll have to do that. I actually might be going camping in a few weeks. My wife is going out of town, and she's taking the dogs, so it's like a kitchen pass. I get to do what I want to for a weekend.
Well, make sure you tell your wife about my girlfriend. And I think that's why it is tough. It is tough on our partners. Yeah. I had talked to one guy. He ended up in divorce because of it, because he was so consumed by it. So yeah, you have to initiate the self-control. It does lure you in. It does get you all wrapped up. But we do got to think about our loved ones and everyday life. We got to put food on the table. We got to pay the electric bill, all that sort of thing. So I'm so grateful for her patience and understanding. But her having her own encounters, it's really helped me out.
Yeah, truly. Well, it helps to spread the madness, right? Not to carry the burden on your own. But sometimes you have to.
For sure.
To cross the bear.
Yep. All right, James. Well, we're definitely going to do a part 2. So why don't you go ahead and take the next minute or so, however long you want to take, and promote everything you want to promote, your YouTube channel, whatever, how they get a hold of you, Facebook, whatever. Go ahead.
This whole project is organic. It's not about me. It's about an adventure, and it really has become an evidence-based adventure. I give God great thanks for the gifts He's given me, and I've prayed throughout this that I'm an instrument of His will, and I can help share certain truths out there. All born from a pretty dangerous boyhood curiosity that has gotten me into some situations that I don't recommend for anybody else. Really, I've gone down deep, and I've gone down the rabbit hole. I've stressed relationships, this obsession. So I don't encourage people to do that, but realize that this reality you should feel good about, because it gives life, literally life, to the living words of the Old Testament on this subject about these watchers. If that's in fact what they are. Otherwise, we've been invaded by space aliens, and that's a whole new podcast. And I'm not ready to talk on that one. I don't chase aliens because
Awesome.
I don't know where to find them, right? But I know where these beings exist, and I know they come around my camp rather regularly. So this is just a big evidence-based adventure that I pray brings glory to His name and His creation, because that, to my boyish sense of the world, it's the only thing that makes sense to me. And having a supernatural, adventure-based presence in my life is a really wonderful and beautiful thing, and it keeps me sane. Bigfoot can keep you sane, so long as you provide the right balance and throughout the rest of your life. So if anybody's curious about my story, there's kind of a synopsis, a summary distillation of my current take on this phenomenon at michiganaboriginal.com. You can listen to other podcasts I've been on and see some structural artifacts. You can see some biblical references that I put up there because they've been sort of riding shotgun with me throughout this journey. And just realize, people, that you can go out and do this too. We have nations of these interesting beings living throughout our watersheds, and we just need to be aware of it and embrace it. And should anybody see one of these, do not fear. Fear is going to be your worst enemy. Anywhere, basically, you can put that throughout your life, but especially when you're in the woods, you need to not fear. Keep your calm, and if you want to learn about these beings, please do what I do and find structural artifacts, actual physical structural artifacts, not esoteric, maybe this, that, and the other thing about some strange, what could be normal weather phenomenon in some trees, but look for the actual teepees, wigwams, and know that you're in the presence of a very ancient people with a very mysterious role in their existence. And I believe that can help us realizing that there is an order, and we can win this great spiritual, or at least perhaps change our beliefs and help these other spiritual beings win this spiritual warfare, provided it's in His name. I can go on and off, and
Good stuff, my brother.
Flavor, but I'm sorry if I bored anybody out there, but I'm grateful for this opportunity. Let's chat by way of messenger, and I'll shoot you some clips, and you can insert them if you want, or put them at the end of this, or just, you can put references, because all of which I spoke to, except for that 35-second clip, which I'm going to send you. I haven't published it yet, so
Okay.
Listen to that with volume up and earphones on. It's amazing. You will hear the tone, texture, and timbre of multiple subjects using a variety of vocal modalities, including a few splashes of conventional speech. It is amazing. And if you want to play it after this segment in the audio, when you're doing your post-interview work, feel free. It's
fantastic.
Amazing.
All right, James.
The mystery of these.
Thank you so much, James. Hang in there. Yes,
yeah,
yes.
Okay.
All right, James, you stay right there. I'm going to put you backstage, but stay there, and I will see you there in a moment.
With you and your audience.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. That was James Lady, episode 26 of the Bigfoots of America podcast show. I love it, man. Talk about saving the best for last. What a great conversation. Glad he hung in there and was patient with me to finally get to him. And I hope everyone at home enjoyed this episode. It is, as I dig deeper into this, it is a multifaceted, very deep subject. And I don't think anyone has all the answers, but James and I would like to have you consider the biblical narrative. Hopefully these things aren't too nefarious. We believe there are some good ones, some bad ones. But yeah, there are some good scripture references if you want to check them out. Check out the Septuagint, the kind of the Greek translation of the original Hebrew and Aramaic in the Bible. Luke 21:11 is a great verse. I think Luke, here we go, 21:26. Yeah. So check out the Septuagint. That'll help you understand some of this. But really, everybody at home, in the end, everybody's got to make their own decision of what they want to believe these things are. And with that said, I just want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Bigfoots of America podcast show. And stay tuned because we've got a lot more coming. All right. We'll see you soon.